Hey everyone, thanks so much for joining us today. I'm Granny Dushliako, and with me is Beth Bakes from Ohio University. This session is about how your school can show up when students ask ChatGPT or Perplexity for advice on where to study. AI isn't just changing how students search, it's changing who gets discovered and why. And today, we'll unpack what's happening, what matters, and what to do next. Beth and I come at this from two sides of the same coin. Beth works inside the university. She's leading SEO and market research at Ohio University. So she's living this day to day. I'm on the agency side, working with schools like Harvard, Syracuse, and UND, helping them navigate SEO and no AI search. AI search isn't coming, it's already here. And we see that in Google search results. Google's AI overviews already appear in about 30% of all program-related searches. And that number is growing every month. ChatGPT now reaches over 800 million weekly active users. Talk about explosive growth. Just back in February, they were at 400 million users. So the fact that they were able to double their users in less than a year, that's mind-blowing. And students aren't typing keywords like before. They're asking full questions in natural language. Think about how search used to work. Students used to type short phrases like MBA, Boston, hybrid. Today, they're asking things like, what's the best MBA in Boston for working parents? It's conversational, it's contextual. Students aren't using keywords, they're asking questions. And that means our job as marketers is shifting from optimizing for algorithms to answering like a trusted human. We actually surveyed 1,500 recent enrolled students on how they're asking LLMs like ChatGPT, Perplexity during college search. And what we found was fascinating. They were asking about things like program details, which includes things like tuition, requirements, deadlines. They were asking about rankings, who's the best school and why, about student life, what it's really like, about career outcomes, what jobs can I get, and more. So they're not just asking AI when they're doing research, they're actually using it to decide. When we asked why, we got the kind of like almost the same answer. Students say AI gives them faster, more direct answers than Google. They can ask follow-ups like, which of these offers scholarships, and get a response instantly. It feels personalized, and here's the big one, it feels trustworthy. So trust is the new battleground, not visibility. We all sat through different AI webinars that promise you the moon and that end up just saying use more AI to write more content, but that's not what we're doing today. Today, we're going to talk about how AI search engines think, and then we'll build a plan that makes your school discoverable in this new channel. We'll give you a practical roadmap. We'll explain you how AI search finds schools, how to make your content discoverable, and how to turn that visibility into enrollment results. Here's how we plan to do that. We'll give you the 7-step playbook to rank #1 in ChatGPT, and we've tested that and it works. We'll talk about why ChatGPT traffic converts better than Google. Talk about 3 tactics that actually work, why admission content can be your highest ROI investment, a specific Reddit strategy that works really good, and why pure AI-generated content doesn't perform. So let's get started. Search, as we know it, it used to be simple. 10 blue links, but then it started to evolve. It became more than that. We got map packs, we got feature snippets, YouTube results. Today, search is mostly AI-driven answers that skip links entirely. The good news here is that we can influence those answers if we understand how they're generated. We call this GEO, Generative Engine Optimization. It's the natural evolution of SEO. And you've probably heard some other terms as well, like AEO, Answer Engine Optimization. You've heard like search everywhere optimization, search experience optimization, LLM optimization. As an industry, we're having a moment. We are not entirely sure how to name this new thing. I think most of the industry is kind of like going with GEO, which is what we are going to use today. But it's the same. Like the difference between SEO and GEO is that you're not optimizing for a search engine to list your page. You're optimizing for an AI model to quote your brand. And you win when your brand is the one that's being referenced inside the answer. So ranking pages today means earning mentions in AI answers. And this matters. Here's some data from SEMrush. ChatGPT is already referring traffic to education sites, over 9 million visits a month. This is from SEMrush AI Visibility Index. How we are going to rank in ChatGPT? This is the 7-step playbook. We want to start by listening to students, understanding how they search, where they search, answering clearly, making ourselves discoverable as a brand, making sure that we are measuring our visibility, experimenting, collaborating, and repeating all of this. If you want to show up in AI search, you first need to understand what questions your target students are asking there. So here's the thing. With Google, with SEO, we have Google Search Console. It gives us all the queries someone is using when they're searching and clicking to our site. That's great data. We are not going to get that from ChatGPT, Perplexity, Gemini, and others for a couple of reasons. Personalization is one, so different people will get different results and use different prompts. Privacy is another big one, but it's also like a commercial one. They can monetize that information, and they will do that rather than give it away for free. But it's not just that way to get this information. There are other ways. We know that these same people, they're going to other places to ask questions, to search. Like Google, we can look at the Google Search Console queries to see what they're searching. We can look at people also ask. We can start and test some different prompts in Google's AI mode and look at these follow-up questions that they provide to us. We can also go to other platforms where these questions are asked, places like Reddit and Quora, and see what type of questions are being asked and from what type of angles, what type of problems they're having, and use all of this information to come up with a list of prompts that we want to track. This is a very important first step. We want to understand what our target students are searching. We are never going to have the exact same prompt that they will be using, but we want to be directionally correct. If we are using and tracking similar prompts, the answers are going to be very similar to what they're seeing. And if we are consistently showing up in these prompts, it's very likely that we are going to show up to our target students as well. And that will show up in the data when we start tracking traffic and when we start tracking conversions from LLMs like ChatGPT and Perplexity. So listening to students, looking at where they're searching, what they're searching, and making use of this information. Now, I understand that just looking at the keywords and then starting to track these keywords in ChatGPT doesn't work. So this is why we created a free custom GPT that basically converts your keywords into prompts. You have the QR code here. You have also the link. I will be sending the recording after the webinar, and I will be sharing the slides tomorrow as well. So you will be able to have the link, but if you want to do it today, that's all good. You can just scan it right now. And it's basically a custom GPT where you can just upload a list of keywords, and it will convert these keywords into natural student style prompts that someone would search. And it's also like more advanced, like you can give it not just a list of keywords, you can give it more information about who's your target students, demographics, geodata, and all of that. And it will further personalize these prompts to make it as close as what the actual prompts could be like for your program. So you can scan the QR code and start using it. The second thing is, once we know what we are trying to track and trying to rank, and basically once we have the list of prompts, the next step is to make sure that our website or program pages have the right content. And if you're familiar with SEO, and you've done SEO in your program pages, you should be okay. But LLMs are a bit different from SEO. SEO loves as much content, as much context as possible. LLMs love structured, complete answers, and they want straight to the point answers. So if your MBA page doesn't spell out how long does it take, what's the cost, it's very unlikely that they'll cite you, that they'll link you. So you want to include things like FAQs, to have short paragraphs, and to have direct statements incorporated in your copy. Once we have that done, then is the third step, which I think is like equally important. It's about becoming discoverable. It's about earning mentions off-site. Your visibility in AI search answers has a lot to do with how and where are you being mentioned. So let's look at this example that we have here. This is the prompt here is affordable accelerated BSN for working nurses. And we have Western governors ranking the first position, and the example, kind of like the source, the citation that's being used to why they showed up here, is this site Free-Education Hub. I am going to bet that 98, maybe 100% of us here in today's webinar, this is the first time we're seeing this site. It's not a well-known, it's not US news for sure, but ChatGPT for some reason is using it as a source. And what I want to kind of like illustrate with this example is that it's not as much about the site and the brand who's talking about this, it's about the format. So these listicles, these best programs, best schools type of content all there has a lot of weight in LLMs. You will see not just with ChatGPT, you will see with Gemini, with Perplexity. If you're searching for best programs, best schools, but even if you go in other industries as well, it's the same. These listicles are one of the key ways of how you can start to show up and how you can start to rank in ChatGPT rankings. So basically, you want to start getting into these listicles. You first step, since you now have the prompts that you want to track, go and check who's showing up, and go and check the citations and look at these sites, these types of sites, and see how can you get listed in those listicles if you're not already. Next step is you want to create some new listicles of yourself. So a lot of schools, kind of like in, let's say, nursing or other cybersecurity and other fields, you can reach out and work with them to create this type of content and include yourself. Basically, like first step, the existing rankings. Second step, create new rankings where you can include yourself. But basically, get brand mentions. This is one part. Another part, and I think Beth is going to expand into that later, is about using your PR team and kind of like when you're discussed on the media, how can you use the right terms when they talk about your specific program, because that also has a lot of weight. So just these mentions when they talk about your programs and when they kind of like describe your program, they help you with ChatGPT visibility and AI search visibility in general. We need to do all of that, and we need to also make sure that we're measuring visibility. The easiest way to do that is to do it manually at first. You just run key prompts and record who shows up. It's not about tracking position. You're tracking presence here. Like we have, like this is like a good structure that you can take and use right away. So you have the program area, the prompts that you've decided to use. And then basically what we're doing right now, and I wasn't able to have it ready for today's webinar, but I'm going to send a follow-up email. This is actually automated. We use apps script to use an API from OpenAI, where we basically like just list the questions and it pulls the answers automatically, and it pulls the sources as well, the institutions who are showing up, and where are you ranking, if you're ranking at all. And basically you want to run this at least once a month. How we're using this is that we are able to create very detailed reports from this information. So this is raw information, and then we turn this into a more in-depth report about what's our visibility, and basically try to learn, like when we are showing up, why are we showing up, what position, what sources are influencing it the most, and how are we being described. So the goal ultimately for us is to increase our share of answers or share of voice over time. And the first step to do that is by making sure that we are measuring visibility. After that comes the fun part, experimentation. So we kind of like, the playbook is simple. We want to identify the prompts. We want to make sure that the content on our site is kind of like engineered to get picked up by AI search engines. We want to make sure that the external web is mentioning us, is talking about us, because yes, AI is going to look at what we say about ourselves, but it's going to cross-check with like what others are saying about us. And we want to make sure that we're tracking that. So once we have that settled, then we start experimentation. Best way to do that, pick one program, one prompt, and test different angles. Maybe it's adding more student outcomes. Maybe it's updating the FAQs. And once you have some initial learnings, share what you find with admissions, with content, with your PR teams, because GEO isn't a silo, it's a team sport. And you want to iterate fast. The algorithms are changing very fast and quite often. And the schools that test early will own the data later. So once you kind of like figure out what's working, you use that information and you scale it. I will pass it over to Beth to talk about why ChatGPT traffic converts better. Beth, over to you.
All right, let me share my screen real quick. All right, so I'm going to be talking about some experiences that we've had in the university sector and working through all of these different aspects of AI and internet visibility for our universities. So let's just real quick recap on the traditional college search. So it's very manual, it can be time consuming, and it's dependent on fragmented resources. So students and families are getting information from the brochures they're being sent, the mail outs, from admissions events, from guidance counselors, and they just have all this information. They're trying to organize it and find out the best way to figure out how to make their biggest decision. And so this, to be clear, this traditional college search is not going away. We are going to continue to send out print mailers and campaigns and emails and have admissions events. And so hopefully the AI search part of this is helping to supplement all of this information that they're being given and to help them create these decisions and organize the content in a way that is more meaningful to them. And so now with the AI, we have a more immersive college search experience. So we have our comprehension and our search intent. And so students can personalize the whole entire experience. They can put in their information, the classes they're interested in, their skills, the career path or majors they're interested in, and they can put all this in there. And AI can then come back with careers or majors that they never even had thought of before for themselves, or new schools that were not on their list previously that they hadn't considered. And then it's all aggregated into one specific place for them to look through. And it's all nicely organized where it has the school lists, and then it often has bullet points and highlights about each university or each program. And then it's also personalized to them. So your AI experience, as well as your Google experience, it's very biased towards you and your previous search history or your chat experiences and what you've talked about or your previous prompts. And so it's going to be biased and it's going to try and please you. So it's really important that as we're thinking through all of these prompts and we're trying to be making sure that we're collecting information in a variety of places. And that's how we're going to put that on our website in different places for people and AI to crawl and collect to then personalize for each of those students. And then the other part of this experience is it offers them guidance. So it tells them what they should do this and this and this before they apply to a certain school, or they should make sure that they include this in their admissions essays. So it's helping to guide them along the entire process rather than a student just collecting all the information and hoping that they're making the right choice and hoping for the best. It's supporting them along the way. But there are a couple of things that we do need to keep in mind while we're thinking through this. So expectations need to be managed. The total traffic from LLMs is still very small. Most of our traffic is coming from Google or search engines or direct from email or campaigns. And so even if that conversion rate is still is really high, the number of actual users or visitors in that traffic number is going to be low from LLM. So we need to think about this in a scale. And even though it's a small scale, a small sample from LLMs, it's still impactful and it's still helpful for us. So we need to pay attention to it and still be including it in our data and our full big picture. But then we also need to know and remember that the LLM referrals are still kind of new. So our standard analytic tools, if people are using Google Analytics or some of the other SEO platforms, if you're using those analytics tools, they may not be tracking or may not be able to track the AI full funnel yet, because there could be some stealth applications where somebody sees your university listed in the AI platform, but there's not a link there. So then they will have to go and circumvent the whole process and then go back to Google to then search for you. And so it's not being tracked through the whole process. It's not being tracked from the first point of contact with your institution through the funnel. And then we also have to think about your quality of content. So you may have a user that comes to you that's the most invested student. They're really excited. They think they want to apply to your university, but if the content isn't there on your website once they get there from the LLM, you could still lose that lead. And then lastly, I really encourage you to practice search queries on your own. And we already went through a little bit of that, but I have some examples of how to track or work through finding some brand mentions within different LLMs. So for instance, here's a checklist for looking for brand mentions in ChatGPT. You can go ahead and ask ChatGPT to pretend that you are a prospective student interested in whatever program that you want to focus on for this practice. And again, remember that your ChatGPT, your LLM, is biased towards you. So it knows your history chat, it knows your affiliation or any other things that you've put in there when you've been working on other projects. And so you have to tell it, you have to prompt it to pretend that none of that exists. Let's ignore other prompts that I've previously put in, and let's start from scratch. Pretend I'm a prospective student, give different context where you are geographically, your preferred learning modality, if you want to learn online or on campus, or even if you're having trouble deciding if you should learn online or on campus. You can put these types of questions in there. And again, trying to think like a student and asking these types of questions to help you narrow down your list. And then asking up those follow-up questions and then identifying if and when your school is mentioned or when they're not mentioned and you want to be mentioned. And so looking through that list and also looking at your competitors, what they are being mentioned for, looking at the information that's being listed, making sure that it's accurate. Accuracy is really, really important here. There have been some instances where I've seen inaccurate information about maybe tuition or a course list. Maybe it was coming from an old course catalog or an old tuition list that was on an older webpage that's since been updated. This can then give you, if you find something inaccurate, this can give you a couple of action items to do. So you and your team can then go back and look at that web page and archive the irrelevant content or update the content on the web page to make sure that it's accurate and correct, or it can alleviate some of the confusion. And then same thing for the citations and links. Make sure it's going to the correct link or the correct page that you want it to. And if it's not, you can prompt ChatGPT to fix this. You can say, you know what, this information is incorrect. This tuition was from a previous year. Can you please update it to this? And so you have an opportunity to influence the language model that AI is referencing for some of the prompts that are about you or your institution or some of your degree programs. So here are some tactics that have worked really well, and we have been implementing and have been seeing a lot of impact. So we have three-part AI visibility strategy, which is building brand authority. We want to focus, and if you've been working on SEO for a long time, this is all information that we know that we should be focusing on, but this strategy here kind of makes it more of a full circle. It closes the loop, allowing AI to verify some of this information. So we have our degree program pages, which are very, very important. Then we have some data and some news citations and some credible mentions that are external links. So building authority with your program page. Your program page is your main hub for this degree program or for this department. And you want to, this is the page that you have really worked hard to optimize, and you have your title and your headings and your meta descriptions and statistics and rankings all listed on this page. And it's your evergreen content that stays there for a while, and it's only updated every once in a while. And we're also including the strong internal links. So links from other pages in the university are going or subdomains are going to come back to this main program page whenever it is referenced. And then you have our news and our data citations. So this serves more as brand awareness, and it's indirectly impacting enrollment because you're mentioning these different things about maybe accreditors, or if a class has gone out to do a community service project and it's been being mentioned in a local news site, you can then link to those. And so it's then focusing on your local community area and the impact that you're making with your degree programs, with your rankings, and within other aspects of the university. And it's also fresh data because Google AI and the LLMs, they love data and statistics that are relevant, and they like to look for those updated ones. And so these news sources are great places to find these updated statistics that wouldn't necessarily lay on your program page, and can be updated more regularly for, again, to close that loop for relevant information. And lastly, we have our external links. And so these are credible mentions where things are mentioned, you're mentioned in publications, maybe from faculty or professional organizations and directories or accreditation directories, again, and those rankings. And as we mentioned before, not everybody can be ranked in US News. And so you have to look out for some of these other opportunities where you're being mentioned. And again, looking for accuracy in this. So looking to make sure that your logo is correct on these external sites and that they're linking to the correct page that you want them to be linking to. It's, again, creating this credibility where where Google and AI and LLMs can find a statistic here, here, and here, and then they know that it's valid and that it's not just, it's referenced in multiple places, and you're more likely then to be mentioned in some of the responses. So implementing this, it requires a lot of patience and collaboration between marketing teams, communication teams, and the academic units, again, to make sure that you're relaying the correct information about rankings or accreditation or licensure boards. If it's a licensure program, you can link to your national licensure board or your state licensure board for these programs. So making sure we get that information and linking it correctly. And then, so we're not getting too overwhelmed in this and trying to put too much of an impact all at once. I just want you to focus on 2 to 3 degree programs that you're going to pilot this approach with. And then we're going to measure visibility and analytics for at least 6 months before we really do anything with it once it's out there. And I would really prefer if we could do 9 months, but 6 months is a good starting point for measuring that impact. And then we're focusing, again, as always, on consistency, credibility, and connection across all types of platforms. I'm actually, well, yeah, well, I'll end here for now.
I mean, you can keep your screen shared, or yeah, I'll take over. Let me just go back. So please continue with the questions. I'm loving some of the questions that we're getting already. And let me just go back here and share the screen in just a second. Perfect. Okay. Just a second. Okay. Just do this. Perfect. So the mission content, as SEOs, we've kind of I feel like we've ignored these pages. We knew that they were important, but we focused on program pages. We focused on creating content like top of the funnel content through blog articles, thought leadership content. And we treated these pages like the legal fine print. We knew that they were important, but we didn't optimize them. Today, for AI, they hold the data that AI seeks the most. They talk about requirements, they talk about deadlines, They talk about tuition, acceptance criteria. And when we have that data structured clearly, we increase the chances of that data being cited as a trusted source. We know that high kind of like admission pages answer high intent questions. We did this study, state of college search, and when we asked what are the questions you're asking AI when you're ready to convert, program specific information and admission requirements came at the top. So this is the type of content that AI search needs. And we went and pulled some information. So basically, this is from a school that we work with, and we looked at what queries students, kind of like what searches they're doing in the university's search bar. And they're asking questions like when to apply to nursing program, when does open enrollment start, uh, kind of like what else, how much is housing, how to review transfer credits, cost per credit, what is the GPA for the UNDBSN, GPA to maintain scholarship, returning student GPA requirements, all of this kind of like what is the GPA requirement for commercial aviation and others. So these are kind of like, when I see these type of searches, one, I see an evolution. Like there are still a lot of searches that are kind of query driven or keyword driven, the type of search that you're used to do on Google. And it's very interesting. Like when you're using Google, we search differently. When we go to ChatGPT, Gemini as well, and other LLMs, kind of like we provide more context, or search kind of like becomes longer. And this is kind of like the direction where search is heading. And this is a great source of data for us to review when we're thinking about how important admission content is. We want to look at this data and we want to convince ourselves that owning this type of prompts is very important for us. When someone searches for can apply with a 2.8 GPA, or does financial aid cover online programs, or what's the deadline for fall 25, what is the content, what are the answers, are the right answers, are do we have any misinformation, do we have like all data surfacing there? And the best way to approach this is to basically, this is like a great checklist for you to use. Like use kind of like when you're defining the questions and the answers, use plain language, make sure that you're updating dates and deadlines. These type of pages, they are recognized by AI as very important pages, so you want to make them outdated. And also, like, going back to the tracking, we think of tracking just from this commercial aspect of like, or transactional aspect, where we want to see we are ranking when students are searching for best schools, best programs. But I feel like SEO and GEO is not just about acquiring students, it's also about retention. So you want to have prompts where you analyze what type of information is being given out there from AI about your school, even to existing students, or even for non-transactional queries. So you want to kind of like track that as well. Cross-link to aided housing, using structured data for FAQ, and whenever possible, if you have a named author or a department behind content, it gives more weight and more authority to that content to AI. And over to you, Beth, on Reddit for higher ed.
All right, sorry about that. I was busy answering some questions in the chat. All right, so tech company news. I'm not sure if you are aware of this, but I wanted to share it just so that we are aware of how things are changing. So in the last year, Reddit has paid Google $60 million per year now. They are in an agreement for content licensing. And so if you have noticed that Reddit has started to show up higher and higher on Google, or being mentioned more in ChatGPT or LLMs, this is part of the reason why. And so they have a $60 million content licensing agreement, and Reddit, it's speculation that because of this, traffic being directed more towards Reddit, it has surpassed Facebook in one of the top visited sites in the US. And ChatGPT has now become in the top 10 of the top visited sites. So this is for our knowledge and understanding that the tech companies are working together to make sure that content is being seen in different manners. And so we need to make sure that we're aware of it and understanding it and analyzing it and adapting to it to make sure that our content is also being seen and we're not being buried by some of the other SEO aspects that are coming into play here. So using Reddit for market research, social listening, and engagement. And so if you saw at the beginning of the presentation, part of my job title here is market research as well. And so I really enjoy looking at the different aspects of what's being talked about and doing competitor analysis and better understanding the behavior of our audience to make sure that our messages are reaching them. So let's look at the bottom of our pyramid here first. We're going to look at the direct access to public information. Reddit provides this to us. It is a group for students and parents and alumni to chat and to talk and to ask questions and answer about what's happening in their areas or what they're excited about or confusion that they might have. And then we also have helpful communities where in Reddit, everything is already categorized for us. So in these subreddits, which I'll show you in a couple of minutes, though they're actually each of the questions or posts is actually tagged with a specific category. So it might say this is an admissions question, this is a campus life question, this is a financial aid question. And we can actually go through that and look and see where the questions lie, where people are confused, and then we can adapt some of our content or create some content to make sure we're answering those questions. And then this goes back to then just collecting some of that qualitative information and you can kind of use Reddit as an informal, unfiltered focus group, because we can send out surveys, but sometimes people answer surveys in the way that they think we want them to answer the surveys. So this is unfiltered discussions about degree programs, about admissions criteria that people have questions about, or maybe financial aid deadlines, things like that, which we can help clarify. So here are some of the key higher education subreddits that we can be monitoring. And I suggest you can take a screenshot of this or you'll get these slides at a later point. Applying to college is actually one of the top subreddits on the entire platform. It has been highlighted multiple times for being one of the most impactful and showing the most growth and really active participants asking good questions and giving good answers. And so this is something to really pay attention to. And the top set of subreddits that are listed here are more generic about higher education, again, so you can better understand the trends that are happening. But then the bottom three that I listed here, they can be more tailored to your university. So you can look up your university-specific subreddit that people are talking about, or you can look up specific degree programs or career paths that people are interested in to better understand, again, your audience and what their intentions are, what they're looking for, and what might be important to them. So here are a couple of examples of informative subreddit threads. The one on the left I went to for the subreddit of grad school, and somebody asked, is getting a master's degree or going back to school really worth it? And then there were 32 responses that were helpful and insightful and actually giving good insight. And so maybe this is something that you can answer these questions on your website or in a piece of news information or in a campaign that you're doing. And then I also looked at MSW, that's the Master's in Social Work, and somebody asked, this is a great idea for looking at different trends for specific degree programs. So somebody asked, if I want to go into this career path, do I need a specialization or do I need to pick a track for my MSW program, or is it okay to have a generic MSW degree in this? And there were good answers that will really help somebody figure out what degree program to apply to and what tracks they should maybe include. And then for us, this is really helpful so we can better understand what the audience wants, what their interests are, and what they think is important so that we can tailor our messaging and our website and our content to that information. There's some really important things we need to talk about, though, with engagement on Reddit. So Reddit rewards transparency and authenticity. If you are starting to market your programs or you're starting to market your school or push your school, they don't like that. You will be red flagged and you could be removed. It wants to be natural conversations and questions and insights that people are answering with helpful resources. And so here are some effective engagement strategies on Reddit. So if you are wanting to engage as yourself as a staff member, or maybe you have a student ambassador who might be helping out with this, be transparent. So you're going to identify yourself. If somebody has a question about tuition, you could identify yourself and say, I work in admissions at such and such university, and here is the correct tuition information that you were asking for, and here's a link for it. And so you're providing information and you're providing links and resources. You're not marketing your program. You're not pushing your program. And if you can look at the third bullet there for being respectful to subreddit rules, just like Facebook groups, there are a lot of community guidelines and community rules. So you can look at those rules to see what they say about how many times you could post, how many times you can comment, what things you should or shouldn't say in that group. And you can really observe and start to learn some of that so that you can engage more authentically in there. And identifying yourself as one of those main aspects. So you're not just pretending to be a normal user. You're saying that you work at the university or a student who goes to the university. So you're giving your actual opinion there. And then the last couple of ones there, protecting privacy. Same thing with social media. We're not collecting or sharing personal information that we see on Reddit. We're just using it to help inform some of our choices and some of our decisions about what's being said and how the content that we are creating to be helpful to these users. And then my caution tip there is to make sure that these accounts, if they're going to engage on Reddit, make sure that they are well-established accounts and they're responding to a variety of higher education topics. Again, they're not just pushing your school. They're not only responding to posts about your school. They're helping the community, the higher education, the subreddit genres in a better way to make the community more robust. And so here's your checklist for getting started on Reddit. So I want you to just identify 3 to 5 subreddits that you want to start to follow. I suggest doing a couple of the generic higher ed ones and maybe one for your school or a degree program. And then you're going to just, for a while, again, this all includes patience. We're going to observe and first learn about the tone and what people are talking about. Should I respond in a professional manner or should I respond in a more casual manner in this subreddit? Understanding how people are talking and chatting with each other. And then you're going to summarize top semesterly or yearly themes that you're noticing about higher ed trends or, again, your school. And we're going to share those with our marketing and enrollment teams and departments to make sure that we have clear, concise messages and responses to these types of posts and or the stuff they're putting in our content. And then after we've talked it through with everybody, we're going to create and start to engage selectively in some of these subreddits and some of these threads, and then start to track that impact. And then we can finally add it into our content and how we share that information and that messaging to make sure that we're closing the gap on some of these questions and confusion that people have out there about whatever topic that you are looking into.
Amazing. Okay. Now, one of my favorite topics to talk about is AI generated content. And I have a problem with it. Here's the thing, like most of the AI content that I see, it sounds the same. It lacks first-hand insights, it introduces errors, and it seems like I'm not the only person who thinks that way. We can look on Twitter or X, we can look on LinkedIn. There is a lot of frustration with all the AI content stuff out there. And AI engines from the beginning are designed to avoid citing this type of content. And I'm pretty sure that they are going to work even more into making sure that their rules are set up in a way that they avoid this type of content. And it's not just kind of like, it's a lot of quantity that doesn't have quality. There is this great study from Graphite, and it looks at the AI generated content published on the web. You see here, ChatGPT launched in November 22, and then this spike, a big spike of AI generated content on the web. And in early 25, it surpassed the amount of content that exists on the web. So now we have more content published on the web that is AI generated than that is human content. And that's a problem. Or is it? When we look deeper into this, and they did this analysis, they looked at the performance of this content. What they saw is that content, yes, they have quantity, they don't have quality, and they don't have performance. Because that content is not showing. They looked at the first and second page rankings, and what they saw is that 51% of the content ranking on the first page of Google is human content. And another 37% of that is mixed with love AI, but mostly human content. So think AI maybe was used to create the draft, create the outline, maybe some meta description, stuff like that. But like the core of the content was still like human written, human edited. We have 9.4% of content that's mixed, where most of the content is high AI, and another 3% that's AI generated. So we can see that the content is not performing. The type of content that's actually performing is either human written or a mix of human plus AI. That is what's performing the best. The reason why this pure AI generated content is failing is because it doesn't provide new information, it doesn't provide new insights. And these AI models, they're kind of like trying to see if this content piece provides information gain. And this is where us publishing data, us publishing student success statistics, placement data, like all of this data that we have, publishing that in program pages, publishing that in admission pages, that helps our pages perform better, because AI, similarly to how they love these listicles, these ranking pages to cite, they also love pages that provide new original data. And we have a ton of that to share as an industry. Another reason why pure AI content fails is because it lacks expert voice or authorship. And models like ChatGPT, they value original, verifiable information. And they prioritize first-hand insights. They prioritize transparent authorship, and they want clarity. So how we win here is by sharing real student stories, faculty expertise, original research. That's what earns visibility for us. This is one example. This is content that we've created for UND. And you will see here that even for topics like what can you do with an early childhood education degree, or how to become an esports coach, like we are including here quotes from former deans, graduates, alumni, visual content like videos, and that is giving content identity, because these are like, let's call them more general topics. You will find an article that says about what can you do with an early childhood education degree. You will find this article in probably like 20, 50 university blogs. But how do you make sure, like, how do you differentiate yourself? Is by providing a unique perspective, data, new content format. And this works. Like when we look at the performance of this specific blog, we publish about 120, 130 blog articles here. They're generating over 110,000 clicks a month, according to Ahrefs. If they had to pay for Google Ads for these keywords, to rank for these keywords and to get these clicks, it would cost them over $117,000 each month. So that's 1.2, $1.3 million in traffic value per year annually that they're getting from their blog content that is related to their program pages. And this content is also like performing very well in AI. We can see in AI overviews, they are showing up in over 3,700 queries. They're being cited and being mentioned as a source. So that shows that AI is valuing this content. Google, the traditional search, obviously is valuing because it's ranking for over 13,000 keywords, getting over 100,000 clicks. And this is kind of the way to go. You can use AI for drafting, for topic expansion, for brainstorming, but you want a human editor to bring it home. You want to add first-party data, you want to add stories, testimonials, you want to credit authors and faculty, and ideally, because similarly to Google with SEO, AI platforms as well, they value content that is recent, content that is updated. So if you can plan to refresh annually for the content that is important for you, that is that helps a lot. So basically, pure AI generate content doesn't work. The winning formula is this one. You use it for drafting, but then you have human editors who bring it home. So this is kind of like what we had planned for today's webinar. And just to do a quick recap on what we talked about. AI search is already here and is shaping how students discover programs. Let's keep that in mind. Geo is SEO's next evolution. So we want to optimize for being quoted. There is a lot of noise out there. SEO is dead. SEO is not going to be the same. The fundamentals SEO are still the same. And while AI search is growing very fast, most of the traffic that you're receiving right now and you're going to receive for a few more years, it's still like from the traditional search practices, and there is a big overlap what you do in SEO, how the geo, and vice versa. So it's not one or the other; they complement each other, and this is kind of like just SEO evolving, and you want to kind of like keep that in mind. Landing pages, mentions, and Reddit are your levers, so make use of them. Admission content is gold. We've been ignoring for far too long. Let's make use of it. And authenticity still wins over automation. There are no shortcuts to success. So to kind of like conclude, the part that gets me excited the most about all of this, what we presented today, is that we're still early. Most universities haven't even started optimizing for AI search. And that means that for us, just being here in this webinar, you're ahead of most of the folks out there. And what you want to do is like start small and do a lot of tests and see what's working and watch how fast your visibility is compounding. For everyone who made it till here, we are offering you a free AI visibility audit. If you're curious about how your school shows up in ChatGPT, Perplexity, you can just comment audit in the chat, and we'll send you a personalized report after this session. Just to give you an idea of how this looks, let me just change my screen here. Just a second. So basically what we'll do is we'll reach out, ask for the top 5 programs, and then based on those programs, we'll come up with the most likely prompts that people would use, pull those prompts and pull the answers for those prompts, 10 answers for each program, and then generate a detailed report that looks at like how well are you showing up, what are the programs, who's the competition, specific quotes, who's showing up in the AI search results, some strategies. All of this will be shared with you. So all you have to do is just comment on the chat, and we'll get that over to you. And that's it. We're done. We have a couple minutes left, and I know that we have some great questions, so we'll get started with that. Thank you all. Perfect. So, okay, chat is disabled. Sorry. I am so sorry. I have no idea why. If you can just comment on the questions and we'll get that over to you. And if it doesn't work, just reply. I will send an email. We messed it up with the chat. Sorry about that. But yeah, thank you.
I can see some questions here. Somebody, a couple people asked about the content for their program page and information for data and citations. And so for the program page, to optimize those, just focusing on the degree program title and the meta descriptions and the headings. You want to separate different headings, talking maybe about different careers paths, and you want to focus more on the topic of that degree program, not necessarily specific keywords. It's easier to track when we're thinking about AI. And again, this is a transition period that we're working through as this becomes more popular. And for the data and citations, should those be outbound links to the news articles? Yes, those can be outbound links to the news articles if it is a news article or an organization that you trust, that you think is a credible organization, and that they have mentioned your programs in the manner that you want to be represented in. So just the but those, yes, those should be external links because they're often linking to your website as well. So that helps close the cycle there. And a couple of questions on if your university doesn't have a Reddit subreddit yet. Go ahead and look. There may be students may have already started one, or they just may be aggregated into any other mentions about your university may have already been aggregated into a subreddit. Is not a bad thing. You asked if that was a bad thing, and it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just something then that you can maybe have a little bit more control over if you wanted to start your own subreddit about for your university. So you can just go with it. If it's already being mentioned, start to understand what's being mentioned. If it hasn't been mentioned yet, then you can start those conversations.
Perfect. Another question from Jill is, does ChatGPT prioritize content from Reddit? What's the connection between the two? So Reddit is this gold mine of data for all these LLM models, and basically what they're doing is they're licensing their content to all these platforms. And similarly to how Google has a paid deal with Reddit and it makes use of their content and then also like surfaces Reddit a lot in the search results. Similarly, ChatGPT has a commercial deal with them, so they get to train their content, but also like pull a lot of their, depending on the prompt, they pull a lot of these threads and show them as citations. What I've seen is that when you are searching about like this school versus that school, what's the campus like, what's the culture like, when it comes to experience, when it comes to first-hand experiences, the Reddit tends to dominate the citations. But also like when students are doing their due diligence about your school or a program that you're offering, again, Reddit tends to be cited a lot. So basically, ChatGPT, OpenAI, and Google and Anthropic, which is behind cloud, they all pay Reddit to get access to this data, and they mm, definitely make use a lot of the data, and it helps because Reddit tends to really have great quality and authentic content. Another question from Greg: what analytics tools would you recommend for tracking AI visibility? There are a lot, and new ones are coming up on the market almost weekly. I would say Profound is the best one, and they have like an entry plan, but you can also like count on SEMrush and Ahrefs, which are more like SEO suites and like more marketing suites. They have a lot of other features as well. SEMrush provides this functionality too, so you can make use. All of them function the same, and basically even that Google Sheet, which we are going to provide for free, does the same thing that these platforms do. But the old Google Sheet just tracks ChatGPT. These platforms, they also track Gemini and Perplexity, but most of the usage is happening in ChatGPT, so that's why our Google Sheet gives you an almost free alternative, because you still have to pay for the API credits. But just to give you like a comparison, Profound starts at $99 a month, and with $10 in API credits, you can track all the prompts for 6 months. So it's not as user friendly, and definitely if you want more detailed reports and if you want like other platforms, I recommend Profound or SEMrush. If you want to just get started with ChatGPT, or Sheet will help you. Okay, Heather, if our school doesn't have a Reddit thread started, is that bad? I assume we don't need to start one. I think I'm not sure if Beth answered this specific question, but like similar to what Beth said, um, we recommend at least having visibility on what's being said about you on Reddit, because Reddit is a very influential source for all these AI models, and you want to check what the sentiment around your brand is there. Uh, we've done some brand sentiment analysis on Reddit, and like you wouldn't imagine what people say. Like they would like complaints about the food on your school will make their way in ChatGPT, especially when there's someone is like they're using ChatGPT in different stages, and when they're in the decision making stage and they're comparing schools and comparing facilities and all these other things that they care about apart from the program. These type of details that exist on Reddit will surface themselves on ChatGPT and other platforms. So you want to um, check that. Um, okay. Any other question? Beth, are we missing something? One asked about how do you pull these queries. Not entirely sure what queries, but like if it was about the search queries, I just looked at the Google Analytics report. You can like segment, like just look at the pattern of the URL, and you can like find that what are the pages with this pattern that got page views. That's how I was able to pull what people are searching in that university's search functionality. Um, if you're asking about like the keyword data that we saw that we wanted to convert to prompts, that's basically keywords that Google provides in search results, in Google Search Console, and others. Okay. A question on, are there any specific components that may be more useful in a program page? I think it's about being very clear with the copy, and FAQs, they work really well for SEO, but they also help you a lot with AI search as well. So FAQs, if we are talking about like a specific component, FAQs, if you don't have them, they're a must. But it's mostly about, it's not like a specific component, it's about how you talk on your page, like, and how you just be like clear and straight to the point, and that's what AI search loves. We understand that it has to be a mix, because that program page is not serving just AI search, it's serving SEO, it's serving paid, it's serving students themselves. But yeah, whatever you can do to make it as clear as possible, that would be very, very helpful. Okay. On how can a small-scale university best structure its website or programs to prevent being overlooked by AI models that prioritize major research-heavy PhD granting competitors? I think focus gives you the advantage. If you start small, you start with specific programs and you just focus on those instead of trying to do some side-wide initiatives, that's how you can win and how you can compete against bigger competitors. And how you do is basically the best practice that Beth and I shared on this webinar, like understand what they're searching, update the content on your page so it can be picked up by AI search, build external mentions on the site that AI search is citing, and track that. And don't do that for 10 programs, 20 programs. Start with 1 or 2 programs and figure out the process that works for you. I think we got them all, but if we haven't answered a question, or if you have a specific question that you want to, you want to ask, please, I will send an email and you can just reply back to me, and me and Bell will get back to you. Tim, this Google Sheet, I will send that in a couple of days, because I realized that it's not just about the Google Sheet with the app script and how it works. I needed to also like create a step-by-step process on how to sign up for an OpenAI API, how to put that into the code. So last minute I had to remove this slide because I realized that people will copy the template but won't be able to make use of it. So I'll record the video, step-by-step instructions for everyone, and then share that with all of you. Thank you all. This has been great. Thank you all for joining. It's been a pleasure. Beth and I are on LinkedIn as well. Feel free to follow us and reach out there, reach out via emails. And yeah, thank you.